Hi everyone, welcome to Oscar Care Group's webinar, How Senses in Autism Affect Eating. My name is Jamie and I'm an accredited practicing dietitian here at Oscar Care Group. Let's start off by defining what autism spectrum disorder is. ASD is a neurodevelopmental disorder that affects how individuals perceive and interact with the world. It is often characterized by social communication challenges, restricted interests, repetitive behaviors, as well as sensory processing behaviors. One of the hallmark features of ASD is either heightened or diminished sensitivities to sensory stimuli, and this can greatly impact eating habits as well as mealtime behaviors. And this combined can result in things like restrictive diets, food aversion, and difficulties with mealtime routines. Now, sensory processing, which is what we'll be focusing on today, this is something that occurs in all individuals, and it refers to how the brain interprets and responds to sensory stimuli from the environment. This can include sight, sound, touch, taste, smell, and we'll also be covering proprioception today. Processing involves integrating all of these senses and responding to it in a way that is functional for daily life. In individuals with ASD, sensory processing can occur differently. It can also look different between two individuals with ASD because not all of them may act or behave the same way. Those with ASD can experience either hypersensitivity or hyposensitivity to sensory inputs. With hypersensitivity, this can result in avoidance behaviors towards foods due to factors such as taste, texture, or smell, simply because they feel overwhelmed. On the flip side, hyposensitivity can lead to seeking out intense sensory experiences, like preferring extremely salty or spicy foods or chewing on non-food items. Now, we'll be going through all of the different senses and how this can influence individuals with ASD. So starting off here with texture, many individuals with ASD are highly sensitive to certain textures and will have strong preferences or aversions based on this. Some individuals with ASD may refuse to eat foods that are either sticky, slimy, or lumpy because of how it feels in their mouth, or even the reverse. Some may enjoy these textures, and on the flip side, they might avoid crunchy or dry foods. So if we are thinking about foods like fruits with peels, the skin and the meat of the fruit has different textures, so they might only maybe enjoy the meat part of it. Or maybe avoiding things like foods that are like a mashed potato because it's mushy, and then opting for maybe a more whole potato instead. With taste preferences in individuals with ASD can be highly specific. Some research has highlighted that some individuals with ASD can have heightened sensitivities to bitter, sour, and spicy tastes, which means that they have higher aversions to foods that have these tastes. This means that it is quite common for individuals with ASD to only have a limited range of foods that they are willing to eat. And it's common for them to have their safe foods, which pretty much is only a handful of foods that they know fit within their taste preferences and what they're comfortable eating on a daily basis. Smell is another factor that can deeply influence the eating experience. The sense of smell is tightly connected with taste, and so it can cause aversions of comfort. So if you think about when you go to a restaurant, when you open the door, there's a waft of smell that comes from the kitchen, and we immediately have a preconceived impact on what we might think the food would taste like, and that happens with the same with individuals with ASD. So depending on the individual, certain smells may be too overwhelming, such as fish, garlic, or certain cheese, which puts them off eating altogether. This can also mean that they might not be able to eat in places with strong food odors, like a restaurant, like I mentioned, which can make mealtime behaviors or socializing a challenge. When considering visual cues, this can cover a few factors. So individuals with ASD can be sensitive to lights, patterns, or even the appearance or presentation of a food, especially if they find them unfamiliar or strange. So, for example, if they enjoy strawberry yogurt, they might enjoy strawberry yogurt from a specific brand, and they would only be able to eat from that brand. And there could be a couple of reasons. It could be because that they are used to the packaging from that specific yogurt, or maybe they could be more used to what it looks like inside. So they might not be willing to try anything else, and that is their safe food. Another example is when they see a food that they know isn't something that they like or not within their safe food library. If they see it on their plate, they might refuse the whole plate altogether because now the whole plate is unsafe for them. Now, with auditory factors, this may not directly be related to food itself, but these include things like background noise, sounds from eating like chewing or slurping, which I think some of us might find can be quite frustrating as well. And mealtime conversations can all play a role in the experience. So louder unexpected sounds can be quite stressful for individuals with ASD, especially if they have a heightened sensitivity to it. Chewing, clattering plates, or cutlery, background conversations can all be factors that disrupt the eating process by either distracting them or causing them to be overstimulated, making them unable to focus on the food that's in front of them. Now, like I mentioned earlier, we'll also be covering proprioception. Proprioception is a sense of your body's movement, position, and orientation in space. In short, it is about having body awareness. For example, being able to touch your nose with your eyes closed, or being able to walk without looking at your feet. It is the awareness that you have of your body without needing to visually see it. Many individuals with ASD may have less proprioception within their bodies, but it can be more common in children, for example, when they begin to self-feed, because it requires coordination of being able to pick up the food with the cutlery and bringing it to their mouth. They may struggle with the coordination needed to use these utensils effectively. And another aspect of proprioception is that they may have decreased awareness of hunger and fullness cues. So for most of us, it's very intuitive for us to understand when we are hungry and also when we have had enough and we're full from the meal. But with individuals with ASD, this might not be the case, or they might just have a decreased sensitivity to it. From an eating and nutrition point of view, how can we support eating and mealtime habits in ASD? There are 3 strategies that are often used and we'll be covering briefly today, and they've been proven to be quite supportive. So the first one surrounds routine and structure. Most individuals with ASD thrive on routine and predictability because they often do not like any change. This can include eating the same foods at the same time and at the same place, and any changes to this can cause distress and refusal to eat. If we are introducing new foods, it is more supportive for it to be completed in a stepwise manner to reduce the chances of overwhelm by gradually challenging their limits with things like texture, color, taste, and smell. Strategies like food chaining, which means gradually introducing similar textures and tastes in a stepwise manner, have been shown to help overcome food aversions. The second strategy is to have an allied health team involved. The first one that we'll be covering are occupational therapists. They are trained to support in various areas, and they can support with the proprioception aspect of sensory processing, such as any aversions to certain textures, tastes, smells, or even sounds. The strategies often focus on improving sensory balance and also promoting self-feeding to improve mealtime behaviors. They can work on developing any difficulties with motor skills involved in eating, such as holding a spoon, using a fork, or drinking from a cup to improve coordination and also promoting independence at mealtimes. A speech pathologist can support with addressing challenges that stem from speech, language, and swallowing. They're able to help support in building oral motor skills, relating to jaw movement, tongue coordination, by using techniques that promote better control of the muscles that are involved in eating. They can also work in conjunction with the occupational therapist to work on sensory related feeding, such as desensitizing to their non preferred foods. And they can also work hand in hand with carers to implement other forms of communication. For example, if an individual is nonverbal, using things like a picture exchange systems can allow them to communicate effectively, thus allowing them to request and express their preferences and build their autonomy. Now, a dietitian like myself, we play a crucial role by addressing unique nutritional needs and managing any food related challenges. We can assess their dietary intake and identify any gaps in nutrients, which commonly occurs, especially if they have certain level of food aversions within them. This will allow us to create a management plan that will support them and meet their dietary needs in a very gradual and supportive way. We also work in conjunction with other allied health support and as well with the family or the caregiver to gradually expand their food choices without causing any stress and to improve variety and balance overall. This will also include taking into account the mealtime routine so that we can make it work for both the individual with ASD and their family unit as well. The other thing that we can support with is that individuals with ASD often have gastrointestinal issues, which may be further complicated by their limited food acceptance. So a dietitian can help to identify any of these symptoms that might arise and then create a management plan to help address these issues, either from food or working with an allied health professional to see what we can do over there. The final strategy is to create a positive mealtime environment, and we'll be going through different factors that can support this. The first is to reduce noise and visual distractions during meals. So it has to do with the visual aspect of sensory processing. We want them to be able to focus on what is in front of them and also to reduce the chances of overwhelm by sensory inputs. Going into more sensory input, so leaning more into the visual side of things, soft lighting and calming colors can help to create a more sensory friendly atmosphere, but also just understanding what makes them feel more comfortable, what kind of environment feels more comfortable for them, and creating and sustaining that environment for them when they are having their meals and their snacks. With smell, if an individual with ASD is sensitive to strong or certain smells, ensuring that these odors are minimized as much as possible, so again that they don't feel overwhelmed and put them off eating altogether. Now, with this one, so introducing new foods in a gradual way with positive reinforcements, I think that's the more important part with positive reinforcements. This can be quite transformative for individuals with ASD. It does require a lot of patience because it is often a very slow process, considering the unique sensory sensitivities that they have. But by introducing the food gradually, taking into account all of the different senses, so going through texture, smell, taste, colors, and shapes, and applying praise and encouragement for the positive reinforcement, individuals with ASD can expand their food library in a way that feels safe and manageable for them. The next factor is to create a mealtime routine that is consistent. So like I've mentioned a couple of times in this presentation, familiarity and repetition is often very helpful for ASD individuals to become more comfortable with foods. When they have a routine, they know what to expect, which makes them feel safe and comfortable. And having this safe and comfortable routine and environment can significantly help in encouraging and introducing a new food gradually. The next strategy is to encourage family, friends, and carers to model appropriate behaviors. This is a highly effective strategy as children with ASD can often benefit from seeing others engage in behaviors that they can emulate. as they often tend to observe and mimic actions of those around them. The family can demonstrate food acceptance by calmly and confidently trying new foods themselves and expressing the enjoyment. So both of these aspects can definitely support in helping them to accept a new food. The final factor I wanted to cover is to allow breaks and to avoid any force feeding. Understanding that individuals with ASD often experience sensory overload means that by forcing them to sit through a long meal or to finish their plate when they are not ready can escalate emotions and create a negative experience around eating, which is what we want to avoid. It's very important to maintain their autonomy and give them control to prevent further meltdowns and to also allow them just to understand that the mealtime environment is a place where they are allowed to stick to their routine and have a safe place to explore new foods without any additional external pressures. To recap this entire presentation, sensory processing is something that occurs differently in all individuals, as well as those with ASD, between different people with different ASD. And all of the five senses, as well as proprioception, can play a role in how it shapes their relationship with both food and meal times. Supporting individuals with ASD requires both patience and understanding, as it can take a very long time for them to build up their accepted foods. And it's important to understand, like I've mentioned, that ASD can present differently in different individuals. So what might work for one might not work for the other, and it's important that we individualize the support that we give them. Finally, the management plans must fit within the routine of the family unit. Oftentimes all of the focus is on the individual, but it's also very important to make sure that it works for everyone involved so that everyone feels motivated, encouraged, and supported, so that they can achieve their goals. Now, if you feel like getting help from a dietitian is something that you are looking for, dietitians are a great and reliable source of evidence-based nutrition. So it's always recommended to reach out to a dietitian for tailored nutrition support. Within our clinic at Oscar Care Group, our dietitians are available to help one-on-one to support ASD individuals, families, and NDIS participants as well to reach their nutritional goals. So feel free to reach out if you ever need that support. Thank you all very much for your time.